want to keep the schools open because the majority of those students, their homes are also impacted. So it's not like, just by shutting down schools, they're out of this situation.
An act of vandalism leaves oil in a Wayne County creek, and now families are questioning what's safe. Tonight, when will the cleanup end and when you can finally turn the tap back on?
And another frigid night on tap before a brief thaw tomorrow and Thursday, but we're still looking for the potential for an impactful snow for the weekend. The latest on that coming up.
Eyewitness News at 5 starts right now.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. The town of Wayne is going on a week without clean water after an alleged act of vandalism caused oil to leak into a nearby creek, contaminating that water. Our Bailey Tucker, she joins us live in the studio tonight after visiting Wayne. And Bailey, how are things looking out there?
Well, Gina, I watched as dozens of cars came in and out of Town Hall where cases of water are being given out, and it seems that there's no telling when clean water will be available in homes, schools, or businesses in town.
The town of Wayne posting on Facebook on January 16th a warning to residents about the water quality, saying an act of vandalism caused oil to leak into a nearby creek. One resident who wished not to speak on camera says it's been tough to deal with.
We don't know what the outcome is going to be of it, long-term health concerns, laundry stacking up.
The West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection telling us days ago they've been helping with the cleanup efforts, and the town is continuing to give out water to those in need.
We have a lot of people out here helping. I know Mike Adkins has also helped along with the town hall, and they've brought in showers and laundromats that are getting ready to be hooked up.
But the big question on everyone's minds is when will cleanup efforts conclude and the water be usable? We reached out to the town of Wayne and the DEP, but are still waiting on a response. For those with children in the area, school has been out as well.
It actually impacts 4 of our schools. Wayne Elementary, Middle, and High, and also East Lynn Elementary.
Wayne County School Superintendent Todd Alexander says they were able to have school for a few days with hand washing stations and bottles of water, but cleaning was what led to them closing.
There's not water for cleaning. We have not been given the green light to use the water for cleaning. During flu season, during this time of year, that becomes a particular issue. So at this point, we decided it was best to just go ahead and close down.
While some students may have water at home, Alexander says this impacts the majority of the area's children.
We really want to keep the schools open because the majority of those students, their homes are also impacted. So it's not like, just by shutting down schools, they're out of this situation. They're having to deal with it at home too.
Alexander is hoping to find a way to get students back in the classroom, but is unsure of when that will be and how it will be done. No one has been arrested for the vandalism as of now. Live in the studio, Bailey Tucker, Eyewitness News.
Well, sunshine wasn't lacking for today, but warmth was. Our temperature is starting off near 10 degrees, if not single digits, with sub-zero wind chills in spots. It's a little bit better this afternoon, but not great. Outside right now, we're in the low to mid-20s locally. Only 18 over in Craigsville, 19 in Elkins. And while it's not as windy as it was yesterday, there's still a bit of a breeze. So it feels more like the teens out there with the wind chills. Elkins feels like 8 degrees right now. Beckley at 9. And sky's pretty clear, and they're going to stay that way for the majority of the night. You know what that means. Temperatures are going to drop again pretty quickly. Now, I think the winds will back down, especially in the valleys. That's going to allow valley spots to fall into the single digits by midnight or a little thereafter. Later tonight, though, the wind will start picking up a little bit more from the southwest, and clouds begin to increase towards dawn. So we'll probably see a little bit of a rise. Not a big rise, 15 to 20 degrees to start things off tomorrow morning. And while we'll have some sun early, clouds will start to gather and a little bit of some precipitation. Now, this looks very scary here at 9, 10 in the morning. Some of that's evaporating before it reaches the ground. But I do think a little wintry mix will develop across north central Kentucky, southeastern Ohio. And just because the ground's so cold, even though it's going to be very light, it could cause some slick spots, especially bridges and overpasses. So watch out for that. I do think by midday in the afternoon tomorrow, we'll actually climb into the 30s and 40s. So roads will just be damp, if anything at all. But we still have that storm for the weekend. A weather alert up for Saturday and Sunday with snow likely and significant impacts to travel. We'll have the latest on that coming up in just a bit.
Thank you, Doug, and you can keep up to date with all the breaking weather alerts in the palm of your hand. All you need to do, download the WCHS Storm Team Weather app. It's actually a really great tool to have on hand. You can find it in the Apple and Google Play stores.
As for everybody who signs up, to sign up to run is an awesome responsibility. I've done this before. I want to continue my service. Those two little ones that are with me represent, I think, the future not just of our state, but of our country.
Well, after filing for another term, Senator Shelley Moore Capito said she's ready to continue serving West Virginians. Capito officially filed paperwork today to seek a third 6-year term, surrounded by family, at the Secretary of State's office. She said she's running on her record, pointing to economic policies, tax relief, and efforts to strengthen West Virginians' workforce and infrastructure. Capito also highlighted recent legislation she says will put more money in West Virginians' pockets, including child care support and policies aimed at boosting job growth and small businesses.
I think, honestly, more money in your pocket is where I think West Virginians, a change that they're going to see beginning this year because of the bill we passed. For everybody who signs up, to sign up to run is an awesome responsibility. I've done this before. I want to continue my service. Those two little ones that are with me represent, I think, the future not just of our state, but of our country.
Capito enters the Republican-only primary with President Trump's endorsement and broad support from state lawmakers. She says she plans to continue shaping policy she believes creates opportunity across West Virginia. As of now, there are 8 other candidates running against Capito, including Republicans Derek Evans, Alexander Gassard, and Janet McNulty. Democrats running are Rio Phillips, Thomas Edward Willis, and Zachary Shrewsbury. And today, Senate Democrats in the Mountain State laid out what their priorities are this legislative session. West Virginia State Senators Mike Woelfel and Joey Garcia detailed what they believe needs attention from lawmakers this year, focusing on child welfare, with a bill that would grant $20 million for foster care capacity and wraparound services, aiming to offer kids what they need right here at home. Also on their agenda, addressing issues with public education, advocating for a $10,000 raise for teachers and a 25% raise for service personnel over 5 years, as well as making changes to the Hope Scholarship to make it more accessible to kids with special needs.
We can work together on issues, and I think especially the two of us, if anybody knows how we work, we do not try to put partisanship above the final product. We're going to continue to do that. They will act however they act, but we're here to represent, again, the people of the state of West Virginia without an RD or I in front of the name.
Woelfel and Garcia are talking about addressing rising utility costs, proposing a rate freeze to allow for a rate map making study, as well as elections for Public Service Commission officials to hold them more accountable and act more efficiently in the public's interest. Well, do you need help filing your taxes without paying a dime? Well, some good news for you tonight. Free tax assistance is returning to Kanawha County. The Kanawha County Public Library will again offer free help with federal and state tax forms available at all library locations. Beginning in February, in-person tax preparation will be offered at the main library in downtown Charleston through the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance on Friday starting February 6th and AARP on Saturdays starting February 7th. Now, if you're picking up tax forms in Kanawha County, the Public Library has multiple convenient locations. Forms are available at the main library and the Sissonville branch in Charleston, as well as branch libraries in Clendenin, Cross Lanes, Dunbar, Elkview, Glasgow, Bell, and St. Albans. Federal 1040 forms and West Virginia state tax forms are free and available while supplies last at each location. And appointments, well, they are required and can be scheduled in person at the main library's 3rd floor reference desk by calling the number and the extension that's right there on your screen. Well, campus coming together to remember one of its own. West Virginia State University will hold a memorial ceremony tomorrow afternoon to honor student athlete Ishmael Smith, who passed away in December. Now, the service begins at 2:30 p.m. on the basketball court at the Walker Convocation Center. University President Eric Kegg, along with the men's basketball coach and athletic director, will speak later tomorrow night. Smith's jersey will be retired right before the men's game against Glenville State. Well, fight over electric bills is heating up in Ohio. AEP Ohio says customer rates would drop if a new rate change is approved, but consumer advocates warn bills could actually rise by as much as $30 a month. The utility filed its latest proposal with the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio January 7th, claiming customers would see a decrease of about $1.22 per month. But groups including the Ohio Consumers Council argue those numbers, well, they rely on temporary tax credits and don't include added fees that could push monthly bills significantly higher. Well, it's been 1 year into Trump's 2.0 And the White House points to close borders, deportations, and economic growth. But are voters convinced? Tonight, what the numbers show after 365 days in office. Well, today marks 1 year since President Trump took the oath of office, starting his second term as commander-in-chief. Kayla Gaskins joins us from the White House, where she spoke with administration officials about the jam-packed year behind us and what to expect for the next 3 years ahead.
1 year ago, this administration hit the ground running with a flurry of executive orders on day one and a pace that has yet to slow as they work to fulfill President Trump's goals on everything from immigration to health care to hot-button social issues to the economy. Tuesday marks 365 days of Trump 2.0.
These are the accomplishments of what we've produced.
The president joining Tuesday's press briefing to mark the occasion, highlighting this year's focus on ramping up deportations.
These are all criminal, illegal aliens that, in many cases, they're murderers, they're drug lords. These are all what ICE is doing. And it's a dangerous job. These are rough people.
Before the briefing, we spoke with ICE Director Todd Lyons, who pointed out Trump has already made good on his campaign promise to close the border.
So the good thing is that that valve is closed now, right? So almost 0 encounters a day at the border.
Kind of an insane turnaround.
It's huge when you think about it. When you were looking at anywhere between 20 to 30,000 a month being let in.
The president also touting economic improvement.
We created super high economic growth, and America is booming. It's booming.
The administration has made going after waste, fraud, and abuse a priority in every agency, from housing and urban development.
Our agency financial report, which is out, about $5 billion we found of potential payment error. $5 billion.
To Medicaid.
We've already found $1.5 billion of things. Some were paperwork errors, some might have been honest mistakes.
But despite those celebrated successes, new polling shows many Americans aren't buying into the hype. A Real Clear Politics average shows President Trump's overall disapproval up more than 10 points compared to last January. That slide is largely driven by independents, with Trump's approval dropping 18 points with that group over the past year. President Trump's ability to keep up the current pace for the remainder of his time in office could be affected by whether or not Republicans maintain control of Congress after November's midterm elections. Reporting from the White House, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
And we want to hear from you. Do you trust that President Trump's agenda is best for America? To answer that question, just open your camera on your phone, scan the QR code right there on your screen, and vote over on our website. We'll have those results for you tomorrow on Eyewitness News at noon. Well, despite an upcoming warm-up, winter's not done with us just yet. Del Carlo tells us how cold it gets after the break. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Well, it is cold outside, and it's cold inside. It's cold everywhere.
yeah, and it's going to get colder still. We'll get a little thaw here in the next couple of days, but then we're going to go into the deep freeze, and that's going to set the stage for a weekend snow event, it looks like, around here. Now, it's still way too early for specifics, but, I think we could start talking about, impacts, and, this is something we want to prepare for. Unfortunately, we've got plenty of time to do it. It's only Tuesday. But, I'd say that, bread and milk, this is that kind of system. Is it 1993? No. But it's certainly more than just talk out there on the internet. So there is certainly something to this. And to kind of put this in perspective, back in 2016, of course, we had the big snow, 1.5 feet, 2 feet of snow around here in January of 2016. After that storm, biggest snow we had a couple of them actually in 2022. January 6th to 7th, Charleston had about 10, 11 inches of snowfall. And in March of 2022, Huntington had just over 9 inches of snow. Are we looking at that total? I think we could be maybe in the ballpark. I'd say the chance to exceed those totals with this upcoming event, right now I'd put it at about 30, maybe 40%. So that just kind of gives you a ballpark range. Does it mean we're going to see those numbers? No. But we could be in that range. So again, that would be Saturday and Sunday. But that means if you're going to be running some errands, I think Thursday's fine. I think Friday's fine. Saturday, that's a little tricky because it's a little questionable in terms of when this event's going to start. And again, there are a lot of questions with this thing. Here we are. We got the whole globe here because where are the systems that are going to produce this event? Well, high pressure, which is going to provide the cold air, is currently over Russia. And the low pressure system, which is actually going to kind of eject little pieces of energy, it's going to settle in across southwestern portions of California. That's still over the open waters. So these are way, way out there, and the forecast models don't tend to sense them. And they're not really going to be over a good spot for the models to sense them until probably Wednesday or Thursday. So until then, getting into specific amounts and exact start time, we just got to wait and see. But I do think this is going to be a kind of snow we'll need the snow shovels for, and it's going to be a very dry, fluffy snow. It's not going to be a heavy, wet snow. It'll be a dry, fluffy snow. The problem is it's going to be so cold this weekend that it's going to stick to the roads just like that. And so significant travel impacts, even if we're talking 3-4 inches of snowfall. It's going to be a mess once that snow really picks up. But when it picks up, could it be Saturday morning? Some of the forecast models have it as early as then. Others say it doesn't start until Saturday night. So we might be able to sneak in part of Saturday before things get pretty rough. And of course, how much? Yeah, way too early to say specifically. But again, kind of giving you that ballpark range. This could be the biggest snow Huntington, Charleston have seen in at least about 4 years. Tonight, no snow. High pressure is in control, so just a few high clouds out there. But there's a warm front to our west, and that's going to push through tomorrow. So our winds are going to turn around to the southwest. It's going to get blustery, but that's going to send our temperatures in the afternoon into the 40s in the afternoon. But for tonight, we're going to drop off quickly. Valleys are going to fall into the single digits here by overnight. Now, the hilltops might stay up a little bit. And the winds do start picking up towards dawn, so we might see the temperatures rise a bit towards dawn. It's still going to be very cold to start. That's a little bit of a problem because the clouds are going to gather with that warm front, and there's some light precipitation. This looks very busy, but some of this is going to evaporate. It's going to be real light, but it doesn't take much here. A little bit of moisture, some sleet, maybe some freezing rain or some snowflakes to cause some slick spots. I think especially across north-central parts of Kentucky, maybe along the Ohio River, north-central West Virginia, mid part of the morning tomorrow. So if you go outside tomorrow morning and it's precipitating, just be very cautious out there. Again, it's real light, but don't want to let your guard down. Then in the afternoon, we'll pop into the 40s, and it's just some rain showers out there. They'll end as some wet snowflakes in the mountains, and then it's quiet for Thursday. We'll see temperatures still in the 40s, so good day to get some things done if you need to get them done Thursday. And I think on Friday, I think it's fine. It's colder, but it looks dry. But then the weekend, yeah, that's where we've got the weather alert. Snow picks up at some point on Saturday, lasts through most of Sunday. So I think Sunday is pretty much a no-go in terms of travel. I would not plan on traveling there. And we start off next week very cold. In fact, we could be seeing temperatures near 0 degrees Tuesday morning.
Well, a church service disrupted. Now the Justice Department is stepping in. Coming up, federal investigators probe a protest tied to ICE, with blame flying in political fallout. Well, there's a heavy focus on bringing the convenience of online shopping into actual stores. That was on full display at this year's National Retail Federation Expo. Helpful holograms, high-tech ways to show off merchandise, and artificial intelligence are all part of the experience. Smart fitting rooms can give shoppers the option to have another size or color brought right to you. Analysts say as retailers flood social media to get their products in front of consumers, shoppers are using chatbots to narrow down their purchases. One retail research firm reports that about 3/4 of consumers occasionally use AI tools while they shop.
They want to feel like they're making smart decisions with their spend, and AI is really helping them do that.
Google recently added new shopping tools built directly into the search engine. It also has a new partnership with Walmart that allows shoppers to find and buy products directly through Google's AI. Well, streaming is no longer catching up. It's taking over. Reuters is reporting that YouTube alone made up 12.7% of all TV usage. Broadcast and cable trail behind, signaling a continued shift toward on-demand content and streaming-first entertainment. According to Nielsen, streaming reached nearly half of all TV usage in December, hitting a record 47.5%. Now, on Christmas Day alone, streaming accounted for 54% of all TV viewing. Netflix, YouTube, and Amazon Prime Video helped to fuel the surge as live sports and hit shows continue shifting digital platforms. And that shift towards streaming dominance may also be driving major movies behind the scenes, because now one of the biggest players in streaming is making a bold play to get even bigger. Netflix says it's now prepared to pay all cash for part of Warner Brothers Discovery. It offers $27.75 per share after a previous offer that included stock and a lower share price. Netflix only wants the part of the company that includes HBO and the movie studio. CNN and other WBD channels will be a separate company called Discovery Global. Paramount is trying to buy out all of WBD, and for $30 a share, Netflix and WBD hope the new offer will fend off that hostile takeover bid. Well, faith leaders, doctors, and police all sounding the alarm. Why protests are growing over ICE operations and how the White House is responding, we'll explain in just a few minutes.
Eyewitness News at 5:30 starts right now.
Well, a jury has been seated for a juvenile charged with the murder of his grandmother in Huntington. Amari Powell is being tried as an adult. Huntington police say 46-year-old Parzella Harris of Huntington was found dead in her home in the 1900 block of 18th Street in February of 2024. In opening statements this afternoon, the chief deputy prosecuting attorney said Powell stabbed Harris 37 times. The two lived together, and Harris was the suspect's grandmother. The prosecutor said Powell told a friend they were going to get money from Harris when Powell attacked her. The prosecution also called in the HPD officer and a forensic investigator to the stand to testify. There was originally a second juvenile charged in the crime, but the prosecution said a deal was made. The trial is expected to go through the end of the week. And while that case now moves forward in court, attention also turned today to the voices outside the courthouse as students and workers across West Virginia stepped out to make their message heard. Organized by the Women's March National Organization, the walkouts are in protest of President Trump and his administration and in direct opposition to increased ICE activity nationwide, as well as National Guard presence in cities like Memphis, Tennessee, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Organizers say this is crucial time for events like this.
Women aren't going to sit by and sit still and look pretty. We're going to speak out. We're going to say what needs to be said. There's no need to be quiet. We're not afraid.
And these walkouts were planned all over the country, and statewide protesters came together in Charleston, Morgantown, Huntington, and Parkersburg. New calls from people across the Twin Cities today for the immigration operation to stop. But President Trump says federal officers are getting illegal criminals off the streets. And as ABC's Ashan Singh reports, some Minneapolis students and parents are calling for an all-out strike this Friday.
A chorus of Minnesotans speaking out against ICE activity today, from religious leaders.
It is long past due for ICE to cease, desist, and leave Minnesota.
To doctors.
Emergency departments and hospital facilities must remain safe spaces.
To local law enforcement, noting the discrepancies they say are playing out with the immigration enforcement in Minneapolis.
We, as law enforcement community, have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations.
Clergy members joining students and parents calling for a strike on Friday.
No work, no school, no shopping. We are stronger together.
President Trump today speaking against the protests, saying ICE is removing violent criminals, but mistakes are made, apparently pointing to the shooting of Renee Good.
ICE is going to be too rough with somebody, or, they're dealing with rough people. They're going to make a mistake. Sometimes it can happen. We feel terribly. I felt horribly when I was told that the young woman who was had the tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's a horrible thing. Everybody would say, ICE would say the same thing.
The DHS says the recent operation in Minneapolis has already resulted in more than 3,000 arrests.
Our operations are lawful, they're targeted, and they're focused on individuals who pose a serious threat to this community.
The family of this man, 56-year-old Chongli Scott Tao, filing a complaint with the ACLU after his arrest this weekend. Tao says ICE agents pulled him from his home at gunpoint, wearing only his underwear.
My grandson watched everything. After they took me, he was crying, looking for me.
He was released an hour later without being charged. DHS says Tao is a U.S. citizen who lived with two suspected sex offenders. The family disputes that claim. And today, officials say grand jury subpoenas have been served to several leaders across the state, including Governor Tim Walz and the mayor of Minneapolis. Officials saying the investigation centers around whether they obstructed federal law enforcement efforts. Ashin Singh, ABC News, New York.
Well, it's a nice looking Tuesday out there. It just didn't feel all that great, much like yesterday. A little less wind, but the net result was the same. Actually, the temps were a little colder than yesterday, so it was a bit of a trade-off. Less wind chill, but still only 20s right now along I-64, and just a couple of high clouds overhead. And that means it's going to get very cold very quickly here this evening. Valleys will quickly drop into the teens and even single digits, I think, towards midnight into part of the overnight. Now, I do think temperatures will climb a bit overnight to 15. Hilltops might be around 20 at dawn tomorrow with increasing clouds. That is a push of some milder air, though, a warm front that's going to start to move in here. It's not doing very much right now, but it's going to start to generate a little light wintry mix around central Kentucky in the overnight hours. And winter weather advisories are up for the Lexington area back toward Louisville right now. Would not be surprised, though, for our northeastern Kentucky counties, Scioto Valley, even north central West Virginia and the tri-state, including the Ohio River counties, to perhaps see a little bit of iciness for tomorrow morning. I'd be on the lookout for that. Be careful tomorrow, especially after 7, 8 in the morning. It's not a lot of precipitation. It's not going to accumulate much, if anything at all. But just given how cold the ground is, it could be a little bit slick in spots. But we'll eventually trend above freezing and actually get into the 40s tomorrow afternoon. So we'll transition to just some chilly rain showers out there. Those will mix with some snowflakes later tomorrow night. But the real snow, that's coming for the weekend. We'll have the latest on that system coming up in your complete forecast ahead.
Thank you, Doug. Well, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a leader whose vision for justice, equality, and nonviolence reshaped a nation. His words still challenge us, and his work continues to inspire generations. Taylor Murray takes a look at his life and legacy in our next edition of Amazing America.
As we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. this week, we recognize not only his profound influence on our nation's past, but also the enduring power of his dream. Over 6 decades ago, on the marble steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., stood the leader who helped shape our nation's conscience. His speech before hundreds of thousands rang out across the National Mall. I have a dream. Those famous words from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., more than ink on a page and more than syllables in the air, they were a call to action. And action followed. He led a movement of nonviolence to confront the systemic injustices of his time. With Dr. King at its helm, the civil rights movement ultimately achieved victories with the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964 and the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Segregation was outlawed, and Black Americans' right to vote was protected. Momentous progress marking a national turning point. But then came tragedy that shook the nation.
America is shocked and saddened by the brutal slaying tonight of Dr. Martin Luther King.
But King's vision for America did not die, because his dream on the steps of the monument became the dream of a generation.
I have a dream. I have a dream.
I have a dream that one day this nation
will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed.
From breaking barriers at the highest level of the judiciary, Thurgood Marshall becomes the first Black Supreme Court justice.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men
are created equal.
To a seat at the table of arts and culture, Toni Morrison wins the Nobel Prize in Literature, the first Black woman to do so. All the way to the White House.
The God-given promise that all are equal, all are free, and all deserve a chance to pursue their full measure of happiness.
Many milestones have echoed Dr. King's dream, a nation where race no longer limits opportunity or leadership. Yet, an undeniable truth remains. Progress is still needed, and the work is ours to do.
Even though we face the difficulties of today
And tomorrow,
I still
have
a dream.
The unwavering belief that together we can rise above is what makes America, America. For Amazing America, I'm Taylor Murray with the National News Desk.
We're celebrating our country's 250th birthday this year, and you're invited to celebrate by submitting pictures and videos of our beautiful area here. You can go to our app and website, WCHSTV.com, and go to the side menu bar where you'll find the Chime In option. Once you're in Chime In, it'll give you the option to submit from your photo and video library. Once you do that, you select the topic, and for this, you're going to choose Amazing America 250. Then tell us a little bit about the photo or video in a few words, and also tell us where it was taken. And once you do that, you may see your picture or video right here on our station.
She was diagnosed with an illness that impacts the brain, but it can sort of shut down the body over time. I'm Liz Bonus. Her competitive nature stepping up once again to make a difference. We explain how just ahead.
Eyewitness News Sky Team is sponsored by GoMart.
Well, dozens of people came together Monday to learn more about Huntington's disease, an inherited genetic condition that affects both the body and the brain. The Ohio Valley chapter of the Huntington's Disease Society of America held a special edition day at the UC Gardner Neuroscience Institute. The event brought together families, advocates, and medical professionals to share information, resources, and the latest research. Now, one of the challenges of Huntington's disease is that children of someone with the condition have a 50-50 chance of inheriting the faulty gene.
My dad was sort of late onset, and I knew whatever was wrong with my dad was wrong with me, and we finally figured out that it was Huntington's disease, and I immediately got tested as well. So 10 years, I was 46 when I was diagnosed, and my dad was 76.
Now, organizers say education days like this help families to better understand what to expect and what's on the horizon for treatment and care. And for one young athlete, that education has turned into motivation, using athletics to raise awareness and inspire others. Medical reporter Liz Bonus shares why this Ironman competitor is quite an inspiration.
Hey there, everybody. When Susan Conrad was diagnosed with a rare brain disorder that leads to the breakdown of nerves over time, she decided she was going to use her competitive spirit to help people learn more about it.
You see, this triathlete, who competed in races which included miles of running, water competition with swimming, and cycling, didn't realize as these activities became tougher, she was living with a condition that was causing her nerve cells in the brain to break down. As those who attended this recent education day at Ohio's UC Health know, it's called Huntington's disease and can cause
Just trouble moving in chorea, which is the movement that's sort of like people would probably notice it as like Parkinson's movement, and so that's very similar to that.
Diagnosed in her 40s, Susan didn't stop being a triathlete and Ironman competitor, even if she couldn't always compete in the official events.
So it's been 10 years that I've been living with it. My first symptoms for me were sort of depression, which is not my personality type, and then some anxiety.
Psychiatric symptoms are common with Huntington's, specialists here say.
Neurologically affects motor symptoms, so can make irregular movements or hard to move or uncontrollable movements, but also it really affects mental health and as well as kind of cognitive processing.
There's no one treatment that researchers say works for everyone.
They're working really hard. Lots of researchers and scientists are working hard to try and find a cure for it.
Until they do, Susan will keep putting one foot in front of the other.
I've been in 3 research studies.
And making sure other families of impact have the healthiest possible future ahead.
Susan says she's determined to keep competing as long and as often as possible to inspire others. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Cold mornings, changing afternoons, and even snow chances ahead. Doug Harlow has your full forecast ahead in just a few minutes.
Well, Now we have the weather alert up for the weekend. It's still a ways off. We still have plenty of time to prepare, but yeah, it is looking likely we're going to have some snow around here and probably some significant impacts to travel. Part of the reason for that, it's going to be bitterly cold. This isn't going to be an event where it's, 31, 32, 33 degrees and it's a little slushy out there. It's going to be teens, even single digits potentially early Saturday. So that ground, those road temps are going to be very cold. So even if you're talking about a couple or a few inches of snow, it's going to be messy. And the heaviest snow probably is going to be across the south, but that doesn't mean that the northern spots are going to get off easy. And we're not going to be alone in this either. But travel impacts, again, tomorrow morning, going to watch for a few icy spots potentially across Kentucky and the tri-state, north central West Virginia. I don't think it's a widespread issue, but just something to be aware of early tomorrow. Otherwise, I think tomorrow afternoon it's just damp. We'll get into the 40s. Thursday looks good for travel across the east. Even Friday looks fine around here. But then we get into Saturday and whoa, okay, red, purple. That's moderate to major impacts. And again, not just here. Down through the Carolinas, Tennessee Valley. This is going to affect a wide swath of the southern and eastern part of the country. So, travel plans anywhere are going to be impacted here as we head into this weekend. Does look like it's probably going to be a kind of snow we're going to have to shovel. I don't think it'll be a super heavy snow because it's going to be very dry and fluffy given the bitter cold temperatures, but that does mean significant travel impacts. Now, way too early to say exactly how much. Also too early to say the start time. Some of the forecast models have snow as early as Saturday morning. Others say, it doesn't really start until Saturday night. So Saturday could go either way in terms of whether you can get some things done before this event really picks up. But just to give you kind of a perspective, could this be our biggest snow in 4 years? It's possible. Back in 2022, we had a couple sizable snows around here. Charleston had 10.5 inches in early January. And in March of that year, Huntington had just over 9 inches. Were you going to get that much? Could. I think certainly that's the kind of ballpark we could be looking at in terms of potential. So, these are the kind of things just to have in the back of your mind. But even if it's half of that, given how cold it's going to be, it's definitely going to be getting very messy, particularly, I think, later Saturday night into Sunday. Sunday, for sure, is going to be a no-go, I think, in terms of travel around here. Tonight, high pressure's in control, so clear skies, which means a quick temperature drop. But this warm front's going to swing our winds around to the southwest tomorrow. It's going to get pretty blustery, but that's going to spike the temperatures up in the afternoon. But tonight, we fall into the single digits in the valleys. Hilltops will stay in the teens, and I think temperatures will go up a bit towards dawn. But here come the clouds, and there's that light wintry mix. Now, some of this is going to evaporate reaching the ground, so it's not going to look quite this bad out there. But given how cold the ground is, I am a little concerned, a little wintry mix across northeastern Kentucky, southeast Ohio, north central West Virginia could cause some icy spots for a brief time mid-morning tomorrow. By midday in the afternoon, though, we'll climb into the 40s. This transitions to just some chilly rain showers, and those will end to some wet snowflakes in the mountains. After an early flurry Thursday, we're in the 40s. That looks fine. It's colder Friday, but it looks quiet. And then we get into Saturday and Sunday. And again, the start time on this Saturday remains to be seen. But we're definitely going to see an increase in snow from south to north. And you can see that temperature Saturday, 16. So those flakes are going to stick very quickly to the roads when that snow picks up.
A Hollywood star is back before a judge and his wife breaking her silence. Coming up, Timothy Busfield faces serious charges today. We're taking a look over the hearing as actress Melissa Gilbert makes an emotional plea on his behalf.